Welcome to the Free Play Arcade Podcast. We are here live in the media room, tape delayed to you, but we're sponsored by Just Water.
Just Water
My
is
not just coffee.
the favorite water that you can buy at Free Play. We also have free water available at Free Play, but sometimes you just want a bottle, carry it around.
Free water is not just water, though.
That's true. Our free water is filtered tap water.
Right.
With ice.
With ice. That's true. With filtered ice.
Which is also water.
Right. And Just Water.
Just Water occasionally has flavoring.
It's true. Apparently they made flavored Just Water. Jaden Smith is just off on a whole other planet. But we know he's going to bring us the truth when it comes to water. So we just have to give him a chance, give him time.
I like flavored water, so I have to try these infused waters.
Yes.
Lemon Just Water.
You can subscribe wherever you want to, wherever you're listening now. Probably up here somewhere. There's a subscribe button. Feel free to hit it.
Below, right?
Below,
on YouTube?
Below, above, YouTube. YouTube's over here.
Just keep pressing buttons until it works.
Plus all the buttons.
We need likes, comments, subscriptions, whatever. I don't actually know what that all does, but subscribing means you will get everything that we do. So
engage with us,
let's do that.
And we will, do what we can to get back to you.
All right, so we're here today, and we're doing the mailbag. Our YouTube channel is getting a little more popular, primarily because we keep making fun of arcade one-ups because they're literal garbage. Like
they are garbage.
In a dumpster. And
I'm so sorry if you bought it. We tried to warn you. It is garbage. And you're not crazy.
Our previous big thing was Billy Mitchell stuff. We had a lot of hits on that. But those people generally were able to figure out what we were. The people that are coming to us for arcade one-up stuff, they don't have a clue what we are. So the very first mailbag question we're going to go ahead and hit is, what the heck is Free Play Arcade? So Chris, what is Free Play Arcade?
It is the first, I believe, arcade in the country to combine a free play model where you pay I don't know what you officially call it, an entry fee. You pay $10 to get in the door.
Yeah, something like that.
You pay $10 to get in the door. It is a fully stocked craft beer bar with over 100 different craft beers, which my friends tell me is ludicrous. Also, local publications tell me that's ludicrous. And then you also have 50 to, depending on the location, 50 to 100 to 130.
Right. We have 60 at Denton, 100-ish at Richardson, and 130-ish at Arlington right now. Arlington's the biggest fluctuator just because of the size. They get some huge games sometimes that knock out like 4 or 5 others.
That's true, X-Men. Real arcade games, real CRT monitors, original equipment whenever possible, which is virtually all the time. Almost no downtime, as if something breaks, we have a tech on site to come fix it for you, and if it explodes entirely, then we wheel its corpse out of the room and replace it with a fresh new old game.
So
R.I.P. Pinbot.
We actually had someone asking about Pinbot the other day, and I was like, I tried to explain.
That was the first game where I knew Free Play Arcade was serious. Because Pinbot exploded, you wheeled it out, and you wheeled another pinball machine right in its place. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. No, we do live game swap as necessary. We will always do everything we can to have 100% of our games running at all times in 100% original condition and 100% working condition. It's no one else is anywhere close to what we do, and it's not. I'm not saying that to brag. I want everyone else to be where we are.
Come check it out. Come check it out and test our claims.
It's amazing.
I mean, at this point, I've been around the nation and in some cases the world playing in other arcades that have copied our model over the past 3 years, and nobody's close.
Yeah,
nobody's close nationwide.
Yeah, we're original because we were the first that opened for like in a permanent sense that had alcohol and it had a free play model. Right. That was also like a full-sized arcade. I don't know if there were small ones, but I'm not aware of any. But we're a full-sized arcade that has an admission model, but also has a ton of alcohol. Definitely the first in the country to be like that. And now it's all over the place.
Right. I think you were the first, so no one told you that you could get away with half-assing it.
Right. Well,
so you just whole-ass the whole thing.
So yeah, that's one of the biggest things about Free Play is we're really, really good at everything we do. And it's not through like some magic. It's through just raw hard work and just, not caring nearly as much about profitability as we do about having an awesome arcade. So we spend way, way, way more on our retro games than anyone else, not in terms of buying them, but in terms of maintenance. Mm-hmm. We have more techs, we have more parts, we have, 1,000 games in the collection. We've got probably 1 million individualized parts. it's ludicrous the scale we're operating right now and the way we've grown, and we've been able to really keep this amazing arcade feeling in all of our locations. It feels just like an arcade, but it's kind of like modernized. And there are, of course, a ton of barcades, a ton of retro arcades that have opened up in the country. None that are as quite as acclaimed as free play at this point. And there are some great ones. I mean, we've given shout outs to like Ground Control, one of the originals.
I haven't been to Ground Control yet.
There's the original Barcade that is a pretty large chain now, like 8 of them up in the Northeast. They're great because they're originals, but
mostly quarter play at that.
Yeah, they're not free play.
Which, to point out, a lot of other locations, there were definitely places that you could pay a cover fee and play games, and there were definitely barcades that you could go drink and pay quarters and play arcade games, but we did combine those two ideas.
Well, and I feel bad for blanking on his name right now, but I've spoken to the games guy that's at Ground Control, and he was just like, we do free play like once every month for 2 hours, and all of our games are broken. How can y'all possibly be doing that? And
hard work.
Yeah, the truth is we have the best techs. We have a ton of technical knowledge. We work incessantly and
around the clock sometimes.
And we refuse to let our games go down. And it's that is our passion. Is
at one point we streamed 24 straight hours of just you guys fixing games.
Yeah, and I mean we could do that pretty often because it's really it's an around the clock endeavor, just having fun fixing arcade games and solving problems. So we kind of built that into our culture. But yeah, so free play has, as all original as these games gets, we're always pumping original code through original chips. And we've seen a lot of some copycats, some raw copycats, others that are just, similar in nature, but they're relying on this emulation. And that just drives us crazy. And that's not like why we hate arcade one-ups. Because those were going to have to be emulation. We hate arcade one-ups because they're cheap emulation that's just trash. We're against emulation because it's just not the real thing, and it's a lesser experience. And we've gone into this a lot.
Well, right. We understand that everyone cannot have original, authentic arcade machines in mass in their houses. It's unrealistic. The problem with the arcade one-ups is they're just poorly made garbage.
Right. And so and then the same can be said for a lot of the other arcade. We're really in the business right now.
Are we going to see arcade one-ups put
in commercial sites?
Public barcade and called
interesting
the real
legal
thing?
Question.
Well, it's illegal, but
I mean, it was the emulation
they're licensed,
machines are
but I
illegal
would assume
too.
that the licensing is only for home use.
Yeah, it has a home use license,
just like all MAME and Emulation, which aren't licensed, but
the arcades of nothing but Pandora's boxes don't seem very legal.
Those are definitely not legal, and they get shut down from time to time. And what's really interesting is not only is that like illegal, like you're literally breaking the law. It's just really disrespectful to your customers to give them such bad versions of those games.
And that's where I come from.
Or the wrong
first and foremost,
scheme.
I was like the first customer of free play, and I still feel beholden to that experience.
Right. Well, and it's really important to us to make sure that our customers do enjoy the real games, how the original programmers wanted to make them. And we talked about that in a previous podcast too. How and some people got all like really defensive that were like, they had no idea about game theory back then, blah, blah, blah. No, the best programmers in the world working off of, hundreds of years of game theory. And one of my very big hobbies is game theory, but working on some of the best video game theory still, they were the ones making those games back in the 80s. The absolute top talent in the world at programming was making video games. And that can kind of still be said today, but not at all for arcade games. Some of the absolute top talent is still making video games, but they don't happen to be making arcade games. And again, we're not just going to keep bashing Raw at the Rails over and over and over because they know they suck. They know what they're doing.
Good.
And that's their model. And we won't really have any like large scale raw thrill stuff come through. I mean, we have a couple, but we are here to bring that classic original arcade experience to people, both in terms of finding the best games, giving you working original games, but also feeling like you're in an arcade. And at this point, I kind of feel like every neighborhood needs it. So because people have kind of been like, where's free play going to go? How are we going to expand or anything? I say, there's no such thing as having too many free plays, because I think people could experience this and want to experience this everywhere. The downside is, of course, we've seen in our own industry, a lot of people they're using LCDs, they're using emulation. They're using the model for a quick buck and hurting the model, hurting what we're doing. And
well, I think you go in for an experience, and if it's not the ideal experience, you may not even realize, but you might not have a good time, and you just might kind of think that it's a lame thing to do.
Right. Well, and then that's kind of at the same time, despite running all original games, all original hardware, as just absolute accurate as possible, we're also one of the biggest arcade party destinations in the world. We have massive events all the time. We do some of the strangest, most interesting, bizarre, insane, off the wall, awesome stuff that any arcade has ever done. And we have, in a previous podcast, we were talking about how our summer event series is the biggest event series in any arcade history period. No one has done that many events in such a short period of time. We had brewery events, massive 1,000-person parties, tournaments, like everything, puzzle game nights, just you name it, we're doing it, and we're doing it as well as possible, and we're doing it as well as anyone in the country is doing it. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about fighting games, if you're talking about true retro games, talking about craft beer, which you kind of touched on. Yeah, Free Play's won all the best arcade awards. That was easy. Free Play's now winning and is winning best beer bar or best beer selection, best draft beer selection at Free Play Denton 2 months after it opened.
Deservedly so.
Well, yeah, that's the real thing is in it that it actually deserved that award. That's really amazing. And every time I go in there, I'm like, wow, nope, that really deserved that award. And it's really neat to be involved in this kind of company where all the priority is on getting it all right. There's lots of other considerations, obviously, but the priority is making sure we're doing the best.
Well, and something that I love about what we do is we are hands down the best. But you put that aside, every single location feels different. It's a different experience, but they're all crafted. They're all tailored experiences. And it's not just going into, a cookie cutter business and visiting another location and finding everything in the exact same location, the exact same setup, the exact same games. Everything is different. The entire vibe, the entire party atmosphere, the crowds, everything. And that's amazing.
Well, yeah.
Palmer's at all 3 locations at all times.
Well, and to reach this many different kind of people too, and to have them all fall in love with arcade games, to reach the early 20s or late teens college kid and make that their cool place, then to reach the young professional who's going out trying to have a huge, awesome party time, trying to find the love of their life. They're finding Free Play and they love it, and they love the arcade games again. Then there's the young families, the adults who have young kids who want to share kind of like their arcade experience with them. Boom, they're falling in love with it. Then the old timers who just want to come and criticize everything but love the arcade games, they come too, and they all fall in love with it. And then of course, it's amazing because right now it's Monday, Thanksgiving week. We're recording this right now. Arcade is probably filled with like families right now, all having a great time. And then by about happy hour, we're going to have a ton of people come in, drink amazing craft beer, all have a great thing. And then by the end of the night, it's going to still feel kind of like a party. Even though it's Monday night, you're going to be walking out of a party when you leave. And that's at the same arcade. And that same thing can be said for all 3 of our arcades right now. And yeah, we really, really do think that this is kind of how arcade should be. And it's an aggressive, difficult thing because other people have said this isn't even possible. When we tell people what we do, like if they're in the industry, they're like, nope, yeah. that's not going to happen. That's not going to work. And
I think we're tooting our own horn here, and there's a reason for it. Come to Free Play and test it out. Yeah. Like it's literally this is what it is. I am not Mr. Hyperbole.
Right.
I try and live by as truthful of a nature as I can. It's that good. Come play it. In some cases we've had to reinvent the wheel. Literally reinvent the arcade culture. And it's taken over. Now you see Free Play style modeled arcades like us cropping up everywhere to copy us.
Right.
Arthur, my community liaison partner, described Super Turbo, which is a game that essentially is only in free play in the Dallas area because it's an original arcade game. He described it as literally the biggest active fighting game scene in the city right now.
Oh, yeah.
And he would know.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even the more, like, and there's something really special about
a 30-year-old game overtaking the modern games.
Well, that's
the way it is in DFW. And you come out and if you want to play, message me and I will send a horde of people at you to play with.
Well, because modern games aren't nearly as social, right? And so
Sure.
that was kind of one of the things that we really wanted to capture. The free play was social gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why things like Super Turbo work so well, and that's why the Super Turbo community is just. I mean, we're probably going to sell out 100+ person tournament this spring on Super Turbo. I know we will actually, but it's just absolutely amazing. And so that's what free play is. We really love arcade games, and we really love arcades, arcade culture, arcade communities. We're all about doing all of that as well as possible. Even if it means we don't make money, even if it means we're just working really, really hard. The bottom line is awesome, cool arcades. And the assumption is everything else will follow. And so it's totally different. It's totally not what people expect. But we're really proud of it. So obviously, and we can say very nice things about ourselves all day. But that's what free play is. We're a retro arcade that tries to do everything very, very well. Follow us on Facebook, get all sorts of information. Join the community group.
Sure.
It's 4,500 strong. Come visit. If you're on YouTube and you're like, I need to plan an arcade vacation, if you come and just hit all 3 of our arcades, that'll be a great vacation.
Yes.
You don't need anything else. That's it.
Yeah.
You have
and you get different, like Richard was saying, a different experience at each one.
Yeah, I had someone send me a message the other day. It was like, I finally have gotten all 3, and I want to say it's really, really amazing because you're in free play, but it's totally different each time. Each location has a totally different feeling, despite still definitely being free play, and that was the goal. So,
in practicing for fighting game tournaments, we actually have a regimented schedule that we go to. So we hit Arlington. If there's a vaporwave party in Denton, you hit that on Thursday because that's open till 2 a.m. and we're all night owls.
Well,
and then you hit Arlington because it's open till 2 a.m. Then you hit Richardson because it's open till 1 a.m. And then Saturday you kind of try and not die.
Sunday, no, well, that was actually really great about that vaporwave party, and we talked about that last podcast. There were a ton of people playing games at Arlington, and then just before the vaporwave party, they left so they could come to the vaporwave party at Denton. Really, really cool. Really awesome. So yeah, that is us. There's plenty of information. You can find out about all these amazing awards we've won, all the stuff that we're doing, and how we're kind of changing the arcade game. And if we seem arrogant, just read our reviews. I mean, we're not the only ones who think this. And the bottom line is the real arcade game is always the best arcade game. So we will do this. And anyone who gives you the excuse that those things can't last forever, we're still doing it. So if free play's still doing it, other people could be doing it.
I'm willing to work hard on it forever.
Right. They're just they're selling you a lie. If you see LCD, if you see emulation, which you probably, I know I talk about this all the time, but you probably don't even know sometimes you're getting emulation, just the game feels a little weird. That's probably because it's being emulated. But not at free play. So we're gonna hit the next mailbag question, which I think we're going to expand this last one, or this mailbag question this time, to go ahead and hit. We're the 3 people who are on the podcast the most. Everyone wants to kind of know what our jobs are. They hear various things like CEO, president, COO, community liaison. And the person that people ask the most about is Chris. They want to know what a community liaison is. And let's spend like 5 minutes, 10
5 minutes.
Because we obviously you do a little bit of everything, and that's one of the big things about free play. All the employees do all sorts of things, and that's what we look for in an employee, someone that can just do all sorts of awesome things. Right.
I started as a customer. I created the Facebook group that you mentioned before. Go to freeplayhof.com if you want to join it. It's like 4,500 strong.
Oh.
There's about 2,000 when you actually hire me on. I've been doing it steadily for a year, running free events. I always love to do free tournaments on any number of games, puzzle games, fighting games, racing games. It doesn't matter. A monthly arcade tournament where we just all compete for the highest score on, say, Burger Time this week, even though Matt DeMoss has already won that one clearly. A monthly pinball tournament, a casual friendly pinball tournament every month is head-to-head. On and on and on and on and on. I make custom videos. I manage DJ Terminator Mike B's page and make his life hell, along with LMA. Yeah, there is a lot to it.
Well, and I mean, I guess ultimately, like, you are simultaneously there to try to make things cool for the customers, but also to kind of advocate for them with corporate to kind of make sure that everything is is good. Like
sometimes I'm the person who is relaying complaints or contacting techs if there's an issue. Although we have a comment, any free play, you can go to the bar, put a card in the comment box. Any issue, we have techs on site all the time.
That is the fastest way to get things
That is absolutely
fixed.
the fastest way. But some people come to me because I'm so high profile,
right?
And they'll say, hey, we're about to play our NBA Jam League. Can you check out player one? Absolutely. And then I message somebody else who is also a tech and also in the league, and they get right on it. So yeah, it's a lot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you are besides all of these things.
I know I'm forgetting stuff too.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you basically you built this thing from the ground up. You built the community group, and that was pretty much what you were doing for the community group was pretty much already a full-time job.
Yeah.
When we hired you, and we were just basically like, let's do more of the same.
Right. And I wasn't going to be able to get to Arlington at that point. We were just opening up Free Play Arlington. So you hired me on. It gave me means to transport myself to Arlington so I could indeed do it in multiple locations. And it's just a continued passion. And I work pretty much around the clock, wake up, go to sleep. It's free play. Even in my sleep, other countries are blinging my messenger service all the time.
Well, yeah, and that's
another thing is helping facilitate the travel of players like Odo-chan, the world's best Super Turbo player, who came out to our Spring Series tournament. I was just contacted by one.
Yeah, no,
advocating for more coming back.
Well, and I mean, that's the Free Play Arcade community group has definitely changed since you've come on. It's become I
had no intentions of getting hired. I had no intentions of running a high score list.
Good guy, Chris.
Well, I mean, that was the thing.
I wanted to play people.
Chris was going to have a cool arcade community, whether or not Free Play was going to be able to do it ourselves. And that was, obviously you came in with so much passion that we like almost immediately started being like, oh my gosh, he's doing so much. We have to do something. And we slowly had to figure some way to work it out. And
there was a different. I would come in about every 6 months or so, and it'd be something else. Let's stop charging you $10 every single day.
Right.
Since you're streaming almost every day. Just go ahead and keep streaming, and we're not going to charge your door entry.
Well, I just remember anytime anyone had a real interest in a game, they were playing it for a very long period of time. They were new to it and looked like they didn't know what they were doing. You would walk up to them and you just introduce yourself and, give them some tips on how to play the game. You would talk to them about, hey, this is a multiplayer game. We have a community group. If you are ever looking for someone to play with, you just get in and you play with them as long as they would want to.
Well, and I love all these.
That was as a
games.
Customer before you even started working for us. Just absolutely amazing.
Well, I truly love all of these games, and I'm not necessarily good at all of them either. So in some cases, I was walking up to people because I saw someone rolling the score of Asteroids over and over again, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to know how they did it. I wanted to share their experience. I wanted to share their experience with other people as well, because I think that's pretty cool, is being able to play a game like that. And it's for so many games. It's Lauren getting to the alien level on Tapper, or just any number of different stories. Ed and his turn in the Tetris tournament, and now he comes out to every puzzle night and shares his puzzle gaming passion with all of us. By the way, he was watching me play Columns the other day, and he gave me the WTF voice. You're at level 90 something? And I knew I had hit something big at that point. I knew it was good when Ed is commenting on how far I am in a puzzle game.
Well, and I think it's kind of like, I think any community, it's good to have that one central figure, which is you in the Free Play Arcade community.
That was not the intention, but it happened that way.
Well, because, I think about all these communities that, when they can get fractured when there's not that person. So every person in the community can come to you, talk to you about what's going on in free play, talk to you about they're trying to organize a game, they need assistance, anything like that. They know they can come to you for help. And I think that's why the Free Play Arcade community group has become the biggest of its type in the world. And it just continues to grow. It's a nice, slow, steady growth of just anyone who's mildly serious about arcade games or mildly serious about partying in arcades, which happens to be a lot of overlap there, which is really cool.
Yeah.
They want to join the group and get involved.
I really like putting the spotlight on other people, which I guess, I don't know. It's I do know that people come to me as the central force, as you say. And then I like pushing that attention off on other people. So I don't know. It is something that happens. It is quite the life turn of events that I was not anticipating. I mean, my life is a lot of work, and I love it. And it would have just been not even a dream 3 years ago.
Well, yeah, I don't think very many people at this table thought they'd be working in an arcade a few years ago. But here we are. So, and then, we can just touch really brief. Richard, you're the COO.
COO, Free Play Incorporated.
And we really put a capital on those operations. We
do a wide variety of things. Brief run through is going to be facilities, equipment lists, game repairs. I even open and sometimes fill in for people behind the bars. We do things on corporate levels, so planning for events, making sure that all of our ideas are taken care of and go off without a hitch, and coming around for the fun parties and stuff, and making sure that everything runs.
I think you were the day zero community liaison, because I remember enjoying many. You're way too busy for these days in a literal sense, but like I remember many times rolling into Free Play on a random Wednesday night and talking with you for an hour and a half when I should have been playing games. It was so much fun. Well,
I really enjoyed those times. It was really nice, and definitely helped me get an introduction to the community as well. And I kind of miss those early days when we had almost no employees and we were doing a little bit of everything, but it meant that we got to be really social with everyone.
Yes, but I would get to hear about your history, working in stage production for 20 years, right?
Oh, not quite that long, no.
Sorry.
He's not that old.
20 years of experience in a 10-year period.
Yep.
There you go.
Which
I'll take it.
We are getting in the arcade crash course right now.
Right. So if Richard didn't have his background in technical theater production, I doubt we'd be having live music at this point. Well, that kind of stuff.
You build stages. There's someone who helps us film these podcasts that calls you a chord management god.
Woo.
I'm trying to think about how Richard also built a cage to lock an evil person up.
I basically fill all of the crazy idea requests that Corey has. He says, I've got an idea, and then I make it happen in some way.
The Wheel of Fighters that is going to December, or Free Play Denton in December. You made that?
Needs a little refresher. I think that little plastic starting to wear.
Yeah, but I think it's wearing good. I think it's still good. But no, I was actually at a convention yesterday, and there were a bunch of people with those little spin wheels, right? Because that's a pretty common thing to have at your table. Mm-hmm. And they were all terrible. Like
yours is like
the Free Play wheel is great.
Well, that's what we did. We went online and we said, how much would it cost to buy one of these little spinning wheel things?
And they all sucked.
And it was like $250 for one. And I said, I'll get some plywood and some nails, and I can make one of these.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest problem in that exact moment was none of them were any good either. Like they were all poorly reviewed, kind of. So. But I definitely needed a prize build like that minute. So
maybe one of these days we'll make a giant one.
That would be fun. So Richard basically is the ultra high level utility employee. He has to do all sorts of weird stuff. He has to make sure that things are running smoothly. That things like everything from like the toilets flushing, the sinks running, the air conditioners working.
On call at all hours.
All right, making sure that just the operations of the arcade are running as smoothly as possible. Which, if you think that they're running smoothly at all, that means he's doing his job, because it's a hell of a lot of stuff that has to go right every day to make just one of the arcades open, much less three of them. Which, again, we are actually open 362 days a year, and our very first day off is coming up. We're filming this during Thanksgiving week, so we have Thanksgiving's coming up. We're closed for the first time in 300 plus days.
Woo!
Really exciting.
Richard, how many times do you visit all 3 arcade locations in one 24-hour period?
Ooh, that actually hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah, when we were building Denton, that was happening
jumping
a lot.
around.
There were a couple of days, I think, last month that I did that, but it's not so frequent. I generally hit up 1 or 2 at a time now.
Yeah,
just a couple.
The biggest things of progress we've done is really firming up and establishing the teams at the locations, and that's been a lot of help going forward because when we first opened, basically Richard and I were the 2 managers of the arcade,
and everything was crisis management.
Right. So Richard, I mean, at this point we have pretty stable teams to the point that we can assume they're going to open even if we haven't talked to them that day. That was a huge step, and you don't even think about that, but like, there were days and days and days where we'd have to be on the phone with people or on site making sure that everything went right to get the arcades open.
Driving by both locations to make sure that we had cash drawers.
Right. I mean, it's something crazy because
So that part's good now.
Yeah, I know. Things are running really smoothly as far as our operations go.
I've been here since day 0, so I've seen all of it.
We have so many wonderful employees that work for us that have taken a lot of responsibilities since they've started, and I think that things continue to improve. We just continue to advance and, make changes, share responsibilities, hire new people. And as we grow as a company, we're going to run into situations and keep finding new problems that we have to solve. But I think as we go, everything just kind of smooths out.
I can tell you the last time I did the 3-pack of free plays, that was the Free Play Denton podcast that we've already aired. That was my 3rd location of the day. As I finished it at 4:30 a.m. playing Aerosmith Pinball, much to your chagrin.
I remember being like, I wonder if Chris is really going to make this. And then like you were like, I'm in the car, I'm coming. Like that was it.
This is still what I love to do. Even when I get contacted 21 hours into my workday, I'm just like, do I go to sleep? Do I go play more arcade games? Arcade games, let's go. And it's almost always the
hard. It's hard not to.
The Vaporwave party. I was a game time decision on the Vaporwave party, trying to motivate not just myself but anybody in my vicinity of like, let's all go to Denton together. What are we doing? I'm not sure. I think it's kind of the Vaporware party. Right. There's an Ultra 64. I'm not quite sure, but let's go.
There's some high concept thing happening, and
right.
we'll just have to go see it.
We've done it many times, or we've done high concept. I don't know what's happening many times, and it's always a blast. And it was a blast this time, and I'm so happy that I did make that delirious decision to go to Free Play Denton at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Technically Friday morning.
Right. And that's what's really great. And what I think about our community now is how much trust they have in us, to just be like, I know they're going to get that event right. And it's really interesting because, we keep doing these different events and we keep having people just put their faith in us that it's going to be good. And we keep getting, that is a lot of, it's really, really easy to get one event right, but to get 30 or 40 or 50 a year right, it's just absolutely insane.
It's definitely a responsibility too.
Well, and they might not always
seriousness into it.
They might not always go the way that we plan, but they're always awesome in their own ways. I know you especially, Corey, work very hard to make sure that everyone is going to not only have a good time, but get a good value out of their entertainment.
Well, yeah, I think it's really important because I think that's part of having a good time. Like, we live in a world where entertainment can just be expensive just for the sake of just because it's entertainment. And I've always really thought that was dumb. So we found a lot of really good ways to provide amazing entertainment experiences, not necessarily just arcade focused, but the different events we run and everything, and keep the prices in a place that are both sustainable for us, but also show people a really, really amazing bargain. I think about things like just New Year's, for example, where everyone just decides to jack up the prices for no good reason, and that's not really our thing. We want to add value there, and make sure I also think it's important for parties to have people there, to have a good amount of people. I've in a past life when I was an attorney, there were all sorts of times where I'd go to like these $40 or $50 a plate or ticketed type events that were supposed to be like, really cool experience, blah, blah, blah. And then you'd show up and there would be 10 people that had also bought tickets. And this was not at all uncommon. And then all I could think of is, if they had 4 or 5 times as many people and just charged much less, it would have been a lot more fun. So that's kind of where we come from. And yeah, I guess when someone asks me what my job is, it's to make sure that people come to Free Play every day. Because I mean, I'm the CEO and the president, and I do a lot of stuff. But
Technical master.
yeah, I mean,
you have a lot of job titles as well.
well, I spent like last week,
Marketing director.
Yeah.
I spent last week making sure all of our games at all of our locations were up, and we had a really really rough week with more games going down, more just pain in the ass, complex games going down. So all of a sudden, it meant I couldn't do all my normal work because we had to get these games back up. So I mean, I was at different locations working on different games.
You asked me, Black Widow is working great.
Good. Awesome. Then it should be fixed. And yeah, I mean, lots of color vector problems last week, which was color vectors are just irritating. My main goal is to make sure that at all times free play is the best arcade experience in the world. So it's a pretty big responsibility. And part of that is making sure there's people in the door, that we have plenty of money to do things like buy cool arcade games. There's no financial concern about spending whatever it costs to fix games. For example, spending $100,000 a year on pinball parts, I had to find a way to be able to do that. So that's the kind of stuff that I work on every day, and just figure out how to make it all work so that we can operate how we do.
We don't have the t-shirts, but you dabble in graphic design.
Oh, yeah,
I've seen you work on website building. You do so much stuff that people would never assume that just pick one of your titles of an arcade would do.
Well, all in all, I think that in the arcade world, we're starting to be one of the larger arcade companies.
Certainly retro arcades.
Especially in retro arcades.
Right.
But I think that we still run very much like a small business. Everyone has certain designations, but I mean, Corey works in every facet of this business, as does Chris, as do I. Like, we all have our hands in a large part of the operations just to make sure that everything is working the way it is. And we ask our employees to have a real sense of responsibility as far as making sure that things are running the way that they would want them to be running. And I think it makes a real difference just being so involved in the product as a whole instead of just being stuck somewhere talking about the theoretical.
And yeah, so now we have free play. So that's awesome. Free play continues to go. It's open right now.
I know something that's amazing has happened. So you talk about like the encouraging people to work and do the different parts, because like it's a small business. Mm-hmm. You hired so Free Play Denton's James came into the job with a passion for pinball, which I thought was insane, because if you know anything about pinball, it takes like 10 times as much effort to upkeep as any arcade machines. That's why pinball died out in the first place. Now we have Matt Johnson in Arlington. We have Johnny, Junior Tech, and Richardson. Both of them, since started working here, have developed a passion for pinball.
Well,
so instead, this is going to be 10 times the normal amount of work that you do. And they both have just fallen in love with not just pinball itself, but working on it and all of it.
Well, and as a tech, when you're coming up through free play, you almost have to, because that's going to be what you're working on for so much. There's such a huge period of time that you spend working on those pinballs, that you kind of have to fall in love with them. And I think that's kind of how it is. Plus, that we are living in the golden age of pinball, so that's what's really neat.
True too.
Is there are new pinballs being made?
It's insane to think we are.
Yeah. Well, it took.
It's true, but
I denied it for a long time, because I think there was the early '90s, which were what everyone was calling the golden age of pinball, which, thanks to places like Free Play, you can still go play. I mean, most of the people who operate
Madness and well, there's tons of them. So
Addams Family and Addams Family, Twilight Zone. Yeah. Those are two of the best ever.
One I've fallen in love with recently. The Creature from the Black Lagoon one. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so good.
Because Universal commissioned what's called the Universal Monsters, which included like Monster Bash, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Some of the best pinballs ever. So yeah, the early '90s were really, really good, and then pinball died. Mm-hmm. It couldn't find a way to stay alive in the early 2000s. Stern started making a bunch of terrible games. I always have been really harsh on Stern, but I think they're kind of getting around. I also criticize Stern a lot because that Star Wars Guardians of the Galaxy combo was just lackluster and bad.
I think Stern makes a very, very good table, and then they make a lot of the same table.
Right,
so their prototype table, the Close Your Eyes and Imagine a Stern pinball machine, is awesome. I love it. It's also got 50 different skins.
Right. Well, it really does. Especially if you're in like.
So it's
Right. If you go to Arlington right now and you play just back to back Star Wars, Guardians, and then Deadpool, you're like, these are all clearly like basically the same table.
Yes.
Like, I mean, different themes, different stuff, different even ways to interact with the playfield. But at the end of the day, it really feels similar. But they're not actually bad or anything.
Not at all.
And as Guardians has received code updates, Guardians might actually be
got
good.
better, yeah.
Guardians might turn into a good table, which is exciting because it's a cool theme. Guardians of the Galaxy was a successful movie. But yeah, we are living in what might be the new golden age of pinball. Things like Dialed In and Total Nuclear Annihilation were just made, which is crazy to think about because they're both just really unique and awesome pinball tables. So yeah, I mean we have a couple pinball questions that we can go to, and the first is actually kind of talking about what we were just talking. What is our strategy for pinball, like in terms of what do we want to see on the floor, and it's changed a lot since we opened, right, Richard? So
right.
We opened. What were our 5 launch games? Do you remember?
Okay, so we did Pinbot, Bride of Pinbot.
Yep.
Black Knight 2000.
Yep.
And what was the 5th one?
I can't remember. It might have been Whirlwind.
Maybe. That was definitely
Whirlwind
early.
was there early. I'm not sure if it was one of the first.
I can actually hold on. I can pull this up. So that was actually what we kind
They were all Williams games though.
right. And we kind
and everyone knew that we really loved Williams pinball.
well, and I still think it's that generation is just amazing and maybe even underrated. So it definitely wasn't Fishtails. It definitely wasn't Addams Family.
No.
We got both of those not long after we opened. And we had some different stuff we were bringing in, but that was actually our goal was kind of like 2 or 3 early 90s and 2 or 3 mid 80s pins or even early 80s.
All solid states.
Right.
And for opening, we really wanted to showcase the differences between those releases in the series. We thought that would be really cool because no one does that. No one has those games side by side for you to be able to play and see the evolution.
Was it Roller Games? When did we get Roller
No,
Games?
Roller Games was later.
All right, so I actually don't have. I have the list. More than 2 years ago, it was Addams Family, Fishtails, Roller Games, Bride of Pinbot, and Whirlwind.
It may have been Whirlwind. I don't know.
So yeah, I would guess it would be one of those. But
We'll just say it was Whirlwind,
Right.
and
so that was kind of, what we were trying to get to was something like that, and we kind of didn't think we kind of weren't interested in new pinball at the time.
Not at all.
But that's because
We didn't own any.
Right. We brought in Revenge from Mars, which was, late 90s, which was pretty new.
And it's quirky.
Yeah, it was really fun. And, we liked it because, that was widely considered the last great pinball table. And then Stern started making weird stuff. And then Stern made things like Pinball Party and Lord of the Rings, which are good pinball tables. But there was a big gap there where people thought there might never be a good pinball again. And then Stern had made a lot of kind of junky stuff that wasn't very good.
Do you remember the first new pinball machine we put on the floor? It may have been Dialed In, but I think there was one before that. I can't quite recall. I know we had a launch party for Ghostbusters,
but we didn't actually put a Ghostbusters out right away.
Yeah, I never played it.
That was kind of funny. It was a fun lunch party.
I forget about that party, but that was amazing.
That was really good. It was really cool to see because it was early in the arcade built community building, and so we had all these interesting characters there.
All the Ghostbusters, the Ecto One out front.
Yeah, it was really neat, and we got to give thanks to Jared Gines for putting that together. That was early in our existence. It was our very first official free play our Facebook event. We actually sold out a whole New Year's party and everything without doing a Facebook event. And I thought for a long time we just wouldn't do Facebook events because I didn't think it was necessary. But it's obviously a good way to organize and do stuff. But so that was where we were going with pinball. And we played Ghostbusters, and I thought, even Ghostbusters, especially that early code, was kind of a weak game. Ghostbusters, I think, is actually not even bad anymore. But we just hadn't fallen in love. And then Dialed In was announced. And Dialed In was and one of the things we'd also always told everyone, we love unique, not just branded pinball, right? We wanted them to have
right, that's an original IP.
Right,
yeah.
right. We wanted intellectual property that was coming, that was just generated. And so Pat Lawler, who made all sorts of great pinballs, was coming to Jersey Jack to make what he didn't think was possible earlier, and it turned out to be Dialed In. And Dialed In is a little controversial, but it's still, I think, the 6th best pinball on Pinside right now, so that's really, really high. It's considered maybe in the top 10 ever, so we put Dialed In out, and that kind of started us growing a little bit in terms of, we never thought we'd put a Stern out. It's kind of funny. There was a period of time where I was like,
we have a bunch.
We'll never put a new Stern out, and in some ways it came about through necessity. When we were launching our Arlington location. So Richardson, at that point, had never had a Stern on its floor, and we made it all the way to the launch of Arlington, and we still didn't have any Sterns. But Arlington had Ghostbusters and Star Trek as launch pinballs for them, and Star Trek, I think, is really cool. That was a cool Stern pinball, and from there we kind of grew. One of the things I think we'll see in the future is us trying to aim for the same blend that is at basically all of them. We want a little bit of everything. I wish we could get a little older and have like the 1980 solid states, and we've tried with like Xenon and different stuff. The problem is they're just so old.
It's a little more difficult just for reliability and uptime, and since those factors are so important to us, it's a lot harder. We're still looking for solutions, and I'm sure that you will still see some of those games on our floor occasionally.
Right, and we've got, just every time we put one out and we think we've got it bulletproof, we find out that the world has a way, and it's just through raw playing it enough will break these old pinballs so much faster than the newer ones. Regardless, it's just all the switches, without replacing every single switch, you've got a bunch of things that can fail, and especially with those older pinballs, they had fewer fail safes. So a switch fails, it shorts a coil so that the coil's active the whole time. Then that melts the whole board because the transistors aren't protecting anymore. Boom, boom, boom. And so all of a sudden you have a cascading effect just from one rusty bad switch that you couldn't possibly have found because there's 1,000 switches on the game, or 100 switches, or however many happen to be on there. So we want more older pinball, but I think the kind of mix you see right now is probably what we'll do.
Well, I think it's a pretty good balance. You have something for everyone, and you can kind of see the evolution of pinball to a limited extent. I mean, with some of the mid-'80s solid states, and then moving forward, clearly we're not going into the electromechanical or any of those things that are far more unreliable for our free play setting. But I just think it's a really good blend. You get to play things, and you can realize how fast some of the old machines were and how slow some of the old machines were. And just really with the changes in design aesthetic as a whole, how they play entirely differently.
Right. It's the new ones is much more about reaction, right? Instead of just perfect shots.
Total nuclear annihilation.
The new ones, you want perfect shots, but a lot of the new ones, it's trying to hit the best possible shot. And you can watch if you watch the tournaments, especially like the difference between EM and the ones playing modern tournaments, these EM guys, they just have to make their shots every time.
Yeah, you got to make your shots count because it's so hard to save the ball.
Whereas the new solid state, it's just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
boom,
you could
boom.
play an hour plus on a game on a new game.
Well, and that was actually one of the things about like Lord of the Rings that was so interesting, was there were people that could put a quarter in Lord of the Rings or however many they were charging, and they'd go to a bar and put on a show for an hour because there was so deep, so much story, and it was such a long, big pinball. So, but
Total Nuclear Annihilation has an ending, which I really like that design.
Total Nuclear Annihilation.
I've never gotten to it myself, but I have seen it done.
Yeah, where you clear out all the reactors.
All 9 reactors, the game literally ends, and you get your score. So at some way, like there's even speed run high scores on the machine.
Wow.
So beat the game that quickly.
I feel like I need to get better at that game.
It'll teach you how to play. It's in my opinion, I call it the ST of pinball because it teaches you how to play pinball. It absolutely does.
No, Total Nuclear Annihilation has had a lot of recent blowback from the pinball community for people being mad that it's so widely regarded as one of the best new pinballs of all time. Like
they're upset that the ramps suck.
They're just they're upset that it's such a it's not a long game. It's not designed. It's not like Lord of the Rings where you're supposed to play. You can play it for like an hour. They're really mad that it's like a speed game, a fast game, a fun game. And pinball guys often don't care at all about theming or anything.
By the way, that was a joke. There are no ramps in Total Nuclear Annihilation.
Yeah, there's not a single ramp in Total Nuclear Annihilation. And I don't know. It's a great pinball, and that's one of the reasons I think we're really living in the golden age is we have pinball people experimenting. And you think about the
Well, I think that's where I come in. Like my priority as community liaison, as a player, is different than a specific pinballs that are in front of us strategy. It's more learning and teaching the techniques of pinball that are not just power bombing the table. Like a really high quality pinball player, it is a marvel to watch them work as they control the shots at every angle. The ball comes in at a wild angle. They do a soft catch and catch it instantly, and then they go to work hitting ramp after ramp. They have great aim intuitively, but they know how the rebounds work, how the angles of the machine work, how to control the ball at every turn, and not be so wild with it.
Right. I guess I think a good thing to go over really quick would be just to actually go through the lists of pinball each place and just kind of see how, because what we're trying to get at is the most diverse lineup that's actually possible in our environment. I think is really what is ultimately, and for the people who might not want to go look at our websites right now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the game list. We'll do a quick little brief talk.
As of you listening to this list is completely out of date.
Right. Well, yeah. So we do rotate still pretty often. So right now, Richardson has Guardians. No, it doesn't have. Does it? Oh, it does.
It
has
Guardians.
Guardians.
All right. It has
Guardians.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Stern getting better.
Getting much better.
We're pretty excited about that. Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Love it.
One of those the Universal Monster games. So cool. So cool.
The music always reminds me of Tubin, though.
Right. Iron Maiden, which is
love that game. You see the guy with the salt and pepper beard there? That's Jason Palmer. Say hi to him.
Right.
He'll probably have a Iron Maiden trooper in his hand.
Right. Yeah. No,
and the shirt.
It was a really good release for Stern, and I think the music's great. I think it's all great. What it's starting to really irritate me with Stern is all of their good games are these music games.
True.
So in my head, AC/DC, Metallica, and Iron Maiden and Aerosmith, they're all kind of blending together into one super game.
There we go with Stern again. Yeah, but I do enjoy Iron Maiden. I enjoy Aerosmith quite a bit. I haven't gotten into the other two tables just because there's a lot. There's a lot on this list.
I think there was some controversy not too long ago because Metallica for a little bit was in the top 5 of all time on the pin side list, which I think Metallica is a great pinball, but that was pretty controversial.
I certainly really enjoy.
So right now Iron Maiden's 6th and Metallica is 7th on the all-time list. A little higher than I'd put them, but wow. And then AC/DC's 10.
So recency bias, but I do love Iron Maiden quite a bit.
Something we've seen on the pin side lists especially is new pinball come out. They're very highly ranked in the lists, and then over time they taper out a little bit.
That's true. Creature from the Black Lagoon is at 26th. So, I think Creature's probably a top 20 fringe, but those are how those lists work. All right, so we were going through Richardson. We just said Guardians of the Galaxy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Iron Maiden, Revenge from Mars, still there, kind of hidden in the corner. And it's
same place it's been for forever.
Right. To me, that's a very fun way to experience Revenge. We've had some people talk about it's too dark, blah, 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 blah. I actually really like playing it right there.
Well, so I think for that particular game, we've got the full bright LED kit on it and everything, but the glass on that game is specifically faded from the top to the bottom. It feathers out and it makes the entire upper part of the playfield dark on purpose so you can see that reflected screen.
Right. It's a special glass, and some people have run it without that special glass, but here we are.
Don't get the screen as visible.
Right. And so when you're doing the challenges, it really helps to see the screen really well. We have, that's one of probably the biggest things that people have said. They can't see enough of the upper playfield. It's kind of supposed to be hidden. So
I think I wish the ball itself was lit up.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
It used to be a bright
green.
Oh yeah,
neon green.
It's still bright neon green.
It's still green, but we can't find replacements that have been coated properly.
Yeah, if it was literally glowing,
that would be really cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah, you could actually see it working its
way
through the table.
Have some glow ceramic type things out.
Yeah, I'm on it. All right, so then we have Attack from Mars, the original Attack from Mars and Revenge from Mars, and both of them are really great games. Attack from Mars, I think, is on the top 100 at.
It's in the top 10.
To be
2.
Yeah, so there you go.
And it's just below, which I think is a fair ranking. Another game that's at Richardson, Medieval Madness.
Which are their sister tables.
Yeah, and they both play so amazing. And then we also have Total Nuclear Annihilation. We've just talked about it. Total Nuclear Annihilation is getting hammered in the rankings, though, and I'm really upset about it. Total Nuclear Annihilation, oh, no way. Total Nuclear Annihilation is pushed all the way to 36. It was a top 10 for a split second. So I think that's way too low.
I agree.
It's way too low.
I think that's really, really absurd.
I can't believe it's pushed out of the top 30s.
Total Nuclear Annihilation is under Stern Iron Man right now.
Yeah.
That's not even close. Okay, so then we have Baby Pack. Not really. I mean, a pinball / game hybrid. It's just a lot of. It's weird.
That game
It's a cool game.
Right. The fact that it exists is really, really cool, but it's brutal on both. It's a brutal pinball table and a brutal.
Hey, if you want it easy, you go Granny and the Gators.
The game actually taught me about spin in pinball because there's no out lanes, so you're constantly shooting it to the sides, and it's causing some wicked angles as the ball spins. And if you shoot it towards the middle, you get this shot that goes like this, and it bounces in the middle, and then it goes straight down. And you're like, that's not possible. Something's wrong with the level in this machine. No. It's spinning because you just sent it this way. And it just goes straight down.
And with no out lanes, Baby Pack can be really fun if you're in the zone and all of a sudden you're playing pinball for like 10 minutes straight. Like you're just like really enjoying it. And then you got to go play the game up there and you're like, oh,
run.
But you've unlocked all the power ups and, make it a little easier with some of the tunnels.
And then we have Adam's Family. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Pretty big pinball.
Murasaki approves, the dictator player.
Adam's Family is currently, what?
So when I went to...
back?
I said 12.
Wow. Too much recency bias in a way. You just omit the like came out in the last 18 months games, and then you'll be getting the true rankings.
And then Simpsons Pinball Party, which is at 20 right now in the rankings. So according to this, I mean, I assume the lowest ranked at Richardson would be Revenge for Mars, or Baby Pack. It isn't really ranked, but
so I went out to Canada Cup, and interesting event, but. Komoda, I met one of the Japanese players. He plays O Honda. Never met a O Honda player before. Anyway, I bring him up because obsessed with pinball. Did not really realize that there was any scene for pinball in Japan. Famously, Murasaki had never even seen a pinball machine before. And Komoda had an entire list of pinballs that he played and was going through this list, just like we are now. And I was just basically saying, yes, we have that. Yes, we have that. Yes, we have that. Yes, we have that. Yes, we have that.
Wow, and I need to actually update the Arlington list. I'm going to have to go watch the little walkthrough video I just did to get the Arlington current pinballs. But we can start. So Arlington...
Oh, you want me to try and do it?
Oh, here, yeah, go for it.
I will not be able to from memory.
We have Walking Dead. We have Whirlwind.
It's there.
We have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Got it.
Ghostbusters.
Yep.
We have that spooky game, the original one.
America's Most Haunted.
There you go.
Made only 150 of them.
Teed Off.
I love Gottlieb Teed Off.
We have no more Star Trek. That one's in Denton now.
Star Trek is in Denton.
AC/DC.
Yep.
We have Attack from Mars again.
Yep.
We have Family Guy Pinball.
Yep.
We have Metallica, aforementioned. Tron Legacy.
LE.
I can never tell the difference. Like I know that they are different, and sometimes they're radically different games. I just can never tell. In
Stern said that they're going to go away from it. It looks like they might be going back toward it, but Tron was they got so much blowback because they made 400 or whatever LEs, and it was
in some cases they're just different tables entirely.
Right. Well, it was so much better than the regular Tron that people were really mad, and all of the LEs sold out right away. Because it's Tron. If it's a huge theme for an arcade game room, anyone you want Tron stuff.
Quintessential.
So that was actually what caused Stern to really, really go back. Because I think generally it's having different levels of pinballs. I understand why they do it for financial reasons, but that's not what I grew up. That's not where Adam's Family actually had an Adam's Family Gold re-release later, but it was basically the same table. It's to have major table differences between the different pros, LEs, limiteds, and stuff, or premiums. I don't really like that. But Stern is apparently going to go back to it.
Roller games.
Got it.
The Getaway High Speed 2.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
It is a good one. I'm starting to get thin there.
What, Batman 66?
Oh, yes, Batman 66.
Batman 66.
What else do we have? Do we have another...
Deadpool just came out.
Deadpool, yeah.
Do we have another TNA there?
TNA is
That's
there.
correct, yes.
So... That's 16.
You're missing Mr. and Mrs. Pack.
Right.
Nice little throwback, ultra old, ultra cool. Let's see. Did y'all get both? Did y'all get all the Williams? Did y'all get Bride of Pinball? Did y'all get Whirlwind?
No.
Did y'all get
No.
Fishtails?
None of those were mentioned.
Okay, there was all of those.
Pretty sure the second one was Whirl.
You got roller games for sure.
Yeah.
Let me
So we're up at like 20 right now.
something like that. Yeah. So if you haven't been out to Free Play Arlington lately, you should go. There's a lot of new stuff.
Star Wars.
So Star Wars is there. You got roller games, Total Nuclear Annihilation, Dialed In.
Dialed In, yes.
And then I think next to Dialed In is Walking Dead, which Walking Dead is actually, you know what? I kind of like that game. I'm starting to like it more. It's climbing the rankings, and I only agree with the rankings when they do what I tell them to do.
I don't know. I had only played a broken version before, so I did not really enjoy it.
Yeah,
the first time I played it.
Yeah, that's one of the weird, interesting things about pinball is I think a lot of my not being a super pinball guy when we first were getting into these things was they're broken so much. And I don't want to throw too much shade, but I go to a lot of arcades, and the area arcades and their pinball is just a shame, an absolute embarrassment, except for Free Play, of course. And I'm trying to think of I believe last time I was at Quarter Lounge, they were actually playing great. So Quarter Lounge, Quarter Lounge generally cares a lot about making sure their games are working how they're supposed to. But yeah, I can't get over, especially some of these places running brand new pinballs, lines and lines of brand new pinballs that are already completely destroyed. And what we've learned is, eventually these brand new pinballs become just like normal pinballs after enough wear and tear, but you get a little bit of a grace period. And it's really a shame to see so many busted in. And there was the big, and I'm not going to name the name, but there was a big official Stern event where I think Gary Stern actually came to town. And if you go read about that event, there's two things: people making excuses for the issues and people complaining about the issues. And how no arcade could ever. Now remember, it was at an arcade that actually charges quarters even, or almost $1 a play. And they still had half their units were broken during an official Gary Stern visit. Nuts. All right, so Tales from the Crypt, I don't think y'all got. There was Fishtails that I just said. Tales from the Crypt's a lot of fun. Really, really fast. Teed Off, which I think this is going to, as we get it fully free played out, because Teed Off was on the floor and it's pretty new on the floor. You start learning all the little issues. We've really, really made so much progress right now with Teed Off. I think I think most people don't realize how good of a pinball it is. Tron Elite Metallica, I don't think was said.
No, Metallica was.
Oh, and then we just have Mr. and Mrs. Pack, and what's at the very, very end? Batman 66. So I think we got them all. So
okay, so yeah, that's like what?
There's 22.
22 or something?
22 on the floor right now. We're going to go to 24, hopefully around the end of the year or so. And that will be pretty much it that's going to be Arlington being finished. 24 pinballs is way more than we ever expected to put out at any location.
Sorry, Orlando.
Sorry, Orlando.
But it's,
sorry, Matt.
It's the location to do it. So like Richardson had 10 or 12. But yeah, Arlington's going to have 24, and the goal is going to be to have enough pinball to always be able to run the biggest tournaments, the biggest stuff. And as Chris got into these tournaments, I felt like that was about the number where we would be able to max out. And
yeah, with that many, you could send me 80 players and I'd still be done in less than 4 hours.
Right. So we can facilitate basically any environment now for pinball, and that was important and
Arlington is now the pinball destination.
Right. And yeah, it's been really, really neat to have a bunch of people talk about how Arlington was great before, but is now just if you want to play pinball in DFW, you should go to Free Play Arlington, which is really, really neat. And I think that's true just based on the lineup alone. There's enough diversity there that you could really spend days and days and days learning and playing a bunch of different generations of pinball and getting good at pinball. Whereas there might be other places that have numbers that are similar to that. I don't know if there actually are, but numbers similar to that, and they'll either be broken or they'll just all be basically the same game. And even that has a lot of Stern at Arlington, but that's kind of the nature of the beast nowadays. If you want a lot of pinballs, you need a decent amount of Stern because they're the only ones that have been making it for the last 15 years. Now that we have Spooky and Jersey Jack really get into the game, but absurd lineup. Now, what's really, I think, the craziest thing is Free Play Denton. And we'll go through their pinball lineup really quick, just because, remember, it's only $5 to get into it. That price will be increasing before the end of the year, slightly, 52 cents or something, so that it rounds up to $6 after tax.
Did Aerosmith leave?
Aerosmith is still at Denton.
Okay.
And
So
now
it
that's
is.
what's actually really, really amazing.
Because Denton Heat is in its place, aka Hollywood Heat.
Well, Denton Heat is at the end now, but it goes Denton Heat, Twilight Zone, then Aerosmith, I think now.
Medieval Madness is there.
They have a Medieval Madness.
Lethal Weapon 3.
I love Lethal Weapon 3. It's probably the low. No, it's not the lowest rated in our entire network, but it's close. And man, I think it's a lot of fun. I love the Joe Pesci. Okay,
Right.
it's so good.
That's why you have Moonwalker as well.
Right.
And technically Joe Pesci isn't even in that one.
Right. All right. So, geez, Denton is so
Yeah,
stacked.
Star Trek.
So Denton has Dialed In, Medieval Madness, Lethal Weapon 3, Twilight Zone, The Shadow, the best The Shadow in the world. And I feel pretty confident that that's actually true. Aerosmith, Star Wars, Star Trek, Scared Stiff, and now Denton Heat. Denton Heat definitely being the lowest rated of all of our pinballs, but only
Whatever, it's greatness.
But only because Hollywood Heat.
We're going to change that. I mean, sure, not on the official boards, but it's definitely going to be a crowd favorite.
If you look at any of the ratings for Hollywood Heat, like any negative one mentions that backlash. Even the positive ones are like, yeah, this is pretty weird. But because the other thing is the colors were all wrong on the original. Like it didn't even fit the table at all.
All I know is in the short amount of time that has been on the floor and the short amount of time that I have been there during operating hours, I have heard so many people comment on how cool that machine is.
Right. It's really amazing. And it kind of goes down. I mean, this is probably like business 101. You know, first impressions go a long way. And a first impression of a pinball table being themed after the city you're in right then or live in versus being like this weird, creepy guy with two bikini-clad girls who don't look happy to be there. Obviously, you're going to like the first game a lot more, even if it's the same game. So, Denton Heat seeing a ton of success. But seriously, I mean, we're talking... We have The Shadow and Twilight Zone and Lethal Weapon 3 all from the same general period of time, all really cool stuff. And then we've got, of course, Medieval Madness and Dialed In, 2 top 10s. And this is a $5 arcade. Unlimited play for $5. Oh, my
We're
gosh.
crazy.
So, yeah, that's our smallest
and you
arcade.
benefit.
And that, well, I mean, I feel like pinball is an important thing. I have been kind of convinced that we might be in the golden age of, at least the second golden age of pinball. And I want to make sure we don't miss out because I think it's really important that we are part of the arcade renaissance, and I think pinball has a good place there. So that's something like, I don't know, almost 50 tables we have out in the Metroplex right now, with a bunch of tables, which makes me the most proud that you can't play anywhere else. And even if you can play it, for example, that Tron LE, Tron LE in general is setting all the records right now for the highest prices paid for pinball. That Tron LE might be the best period that exists. And I know all of the ones in the state of Texas. That is definitely the best in the state of Texas. And it's not even remotely close. So really, really proud of our current pinball thing. And that's kind of, I guess ultimately, as a very, very long answer to the question, we're trying to add diversity while still making sure we can maintain the games in the free play fashion, which is working really, really well. Most of the, almost 99.9% of the time. And anytime that it breaks, getting it fixed as fast as possible.
When did Free Play open? 2016, 2015?
We opened December. Our first people that paid money came through the door December 3rd, 2015 at a preview event. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe it was 2014. I went to TPF, Texas Pinball Festival, for the first time, and that kind of got me into pinball machines as a player. I mean, I played them back in the 90s, as you said,
right.
in the what you would call the first golden age. Got out of it, came back, saw all the old games, brought back again at TPF, and then actually started seeking out pinball, like to see if I could play it in the area. Found myself an arcade and enjoyed it. It had several pinballs there. Clearly the owner had some passion for it. But, free play arcade is such, in Denton and Richardson and in Arlington, is such a pinball value that I still have my free passes here.
Nice.
From the arcade. 3 years later, I still haven't used them.
You haven't been able to make it back.
I keep it, maybe. It was a good experience, so I keep my passes here. I did just clean out my wallet and throw away all my Dave and Buster's cards that someone gave me for some reason.
Well, I mean,
those weren't getting used.
I can actually give a quick shout out to Nickel-Rama for holding down. That was the arcade. Nickel-Rama held down the pinball in the area for a long, long time, despite the fact that their core demographic wouldn't even look at those tables.
Right.
So that's really,
that was
really amazing.
Part of going there was just sort of like getting ignored by the little kids running around.
Well, I remember just before, maybe a few months before we opened our Richardson location, going there, having a lot of fun playing pinball, and they were running a actual IFPA event at Nickel-Rama then. And they had like 12 or so tables. They've, from what I understand, cut down substantially the tables. They now have 2 locations, but they still have something like 10 tables between the 2 locations. Because obviously that's not where the money is. No. But I do give them a ton of credit for holding down DFW pinball for a long, long time, because there was a period of time I couldn't even, Tornado Terry's maybe? I don't know.
Those are the 2 places that I found when I extensively searched Google. And it got to a point where I could tell that there were private collectors in the area, and they had the machines. Machines that would never, machines that were at TPF that I would never, ever get to play. Like I remember talking to Sarah, my best friend, and just saying like, we have to like meet these private collectors and just sort of ingratiate ourselves and let them know that we won't hurt their stuff, because that's the only way we're going to ever get to play all these pinball machines. And now 3 years later, they're literally all at free play locations.
Right. We've got 50 tables or so out with not even that many duplicates. And the duplicates that we have are just absurd.
Medieval Madness. I want to go play it everywhere.
Right. Medieval Madness and Attack from Mars can go in any lineup at any time, because they're total studs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our pinball strategy. I hope we've played some role in making sure pinball sticks around, and we're really gonna make sure we play a big part as pinball might enter its second golden age. So you'll see newer pinballs, and we're gonna do everything we can to keep these older pinballs, even as other people continually say it's totally impossible to have them. It's not impossible, it's just really hard. So we will do it as long as it is possible. And in the meantime, that's pretty much it. That's all the time we have for this podcast. Good little mailbag podcast, knocking out some stuff. Some of the questions y'all have asked. We still have probably 130 mailbag questions to get to. So
glad we got through like 3.
As long as we're taking 20 or 30 minutes per question, we will never get done. But for now, thanks to Just Water, we are signing off. Make sure you hit subscribe.
Thanks for the coffee tasting water.